Lucas, who is a professor of international relations at Birmingham University. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm wondering first if you are convinced by the White House line that this firing has nothing to do with the Russia inquiry.
No. In the history of bad excuses, this is one of the worst. We know from inside sources, including inside the White House, that Donald Trump has been pondering whether to fire FBI Director James Comey for more than a week, and that specifically Trump has been upset because Comey has been expanding the Trump-Russia inquiry instead of what Trump would want, which is a focus on Hillary Clinton and her emails from last year. Over the weekend, Trump got more and more angry, and on Monday he told other officials in the White House that Comey had to go, and they very hastily constructed this idea that Comey had overstepped his authority regarding the Clinton investigation rather than referring to Russia.
So what is he engaged then in a cover-up? And ultimately, what could be the consequences of those actions?
To put it politely, he's trying to make it all go away. In terms of the consequences, I think it's important to note that on Monday, the day before Comey was fired, he was approached by the Senate Intelligence Committee chairman, one of whom is a Republican, and they asked him to speed up the FBI's investigation because they're opening hearings this week and they want to press ahead. Now, as soon as news came through that Comey was fired, those intelligence chairmen did not back away. Instead, they put more chips into the pot. They subpoenaed Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor accused of links with the Russians. They said they want to hear Comey in closed-door session. And they asked a government agency that handles money laundering to investigate Russian banks who may or may not have a connection with the Trump campaign from last year.
So now we have Democrats and then the protesters that we've seen calling for a special prosecutor to be appointed. Can that happen? Is there any precedent for it?
Oh, there's certainly precedent for it. For famously in 1973, a special prosecutor was investigated over the Watergate scandal, and equally famously, he was dismissed. He was fired by Richard Nixon, who hoped to limit that investigation like Trump hopes to limit this one. Nixon failed, which doesn't bode well for Trump in this case. But I don't think we're going to see a special prosecutor immediately. Instead, we're going to see both the House and Senate Intelligence Committees put to the test. Can they conduct fair, independent hearings? And we're going to see the FBI press ahead. I think if the Senate and the House are seen to not do their job adequately, then we're looking at the possibility of an independent investigation or even a special prosecutor.
You may not have a crystal ball, but you do seem to have a lot of information. So how do you envision this unfolding? What is the end game for this?
Well, this goes on for some time. I mean, we're not going to see a decisive blow landed, but we're going to see an increasingly chaotic White House, one with an increasingly impulsive Trump. And I think that'll just make the FBI and other agencies, as well as some in Congress, more determined to try to hold him to account. And I think it has wider effects. It means that the White House risks being almost paralyzed at a time of importance for domestic affairs, think healthcare, think the economy, and international affairs. Consider, for example, that coincidentally, the Russian foreign minister was in Washington yesterday, and of course the Turkish president is in the United States in just a few days, talking about key matters. Can Trump focus when he's so distracted by trying to limit this investigation?
Okay. Scott Lucas, thank you so much for sharing your insight there. We appreciate it.
Thank you.